Namaskar, a warm welcome to World News and Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Anita Anand and with me is Reshma Tiwari, bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. India and the United States vow to support each other amid COVID crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces PM Cares Children's Scheme, creates corpus of 10 lakh rupees and free education for children who lost their parents due to COVID-19. Japan extends COVID-19 state of emergency in Tokyo and 9 other regions for 3 more weeks. International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers being observed today. 7 Indian boxers gear up for a big haul of gold medals at the Asian Boxing Championships in Dubai. And an all-English UEFA Champions League final between Chelsea and Manchester City to take place in Porto shortly. As the number of COVID cases is on the rise, we appeal to our listeners not to lower the guard, follow all the precautions, and all those above 45 years of age who have taken the first dose of COVID-19 vaccine to get vaccinated with the second dose at the scheduled time. Stay safe and protected by following these 3 simple steps. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki doori for social distancing, and focus on hand and face hygiene. And now the news in detail. The U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said America will never forget the help provided by India during the early days of COVID. Mr. Blinken said India was there for the United States and now the USA wants to make sure that America is there for and with India. He said U.S. and India are united in confronting the challenges of COVID-19, climate change and other challenges in the region and around the world. He added that both countries have partnered together directly through the Quad and other institutions at the United Nations. Mr. Blinken said the partnership between the United States and India is vital, it's strong and it's increasingly productive. Earlier, External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar met U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in Washington last night. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said there was productive discussion on various aspects of the bilateral cooperation as well as regional and global issues. Both leaders discussed Indo-Pacific and the Quad, Afghanistan, Myanmar, UNSC matters and other international organizations. He said discussion also focused on Indo-US vaccine partnership aimed at expanding access and ensuring supply. Dr. Jaishankar appreciated the strong solidarity expressed by the US at this time. Meanwhile, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar said India has indicated a willingness to import vaccines and accept vaccines that have been cleared by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Talking to the media in Washington, Dr. Jaishankar said there was a discussion about such possibilities at a policy level, but this is a decision the administration has to make. On whether the U.S. administration spoke to him for India's help and COVID origin probe, the minister said a group of WHO officials visited China and submitted a report. He said India's position is that a report is the first step and further studies should be done for a robust position. He said it was not discussed during his visit to the U.S. Replying to a query on Quad, Dr. Jaishankar said it fills a very important gap that emerged in contemporary times. He added that Quad is an expression of convergence of interests of many countries. He said it is a reflection of the contemporary nature of the world order. External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar also met U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin in Washington. In a tweet, Dr. Jaishankar said a comprehensive conversation took place about further developing the strategic and defense partnership. They exchanged views on contemporary security challenges. Dr. Jaishankar expressed appreciation of the U.S. military role in responding to the COVID situation.
The second Brics Sherpas and Sous-Sherpas meeting discussed the preparations for the upcoming meeting of the Brics foreign ministers on the 1st of June. During the meeting, convened under India's chairship from 25th to 28th of this month, Brics partners negotiated key deliverables for India's Brics 2021 chairship, including outcome documents for the foreign ministers' meeting. The External Affairs Ministry said that the negotiations took place in a constructive and cordial atmosphere. BRICS partners appreciated the positive leadership of the Indian chair in advancing intra-BRICS cooperation despite the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic. In a major relief announcement extending much-needed support for the children who have lost their parents due to COVID-19, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Saturday approved a slew of measures under PM CARES for Children scheme, including free education and an amount of 10 lakh rupees on attaining the age of 23, among others. All children who have lost both parents or surviving parent or legal guardian or adoptive parents due to COVID-19 will be supported under the PM CARES for Children scheme. A report from our correspondent.
Under the PM CARES for Children scheme, contribution will be done through the PM CARES fund till the age of 18 years to create a corpus of 10 lakh rupees for each child orphaned due to COVID-19. The beneficiary will be given a monthly stipend for 5 years from 18 years of age till he completes 23. On attaining the age of 23, the full amount of 10 lakh rupees will be transferred to the beneficiary for his professional or personal use. Ensuring free education to such kids under the scheme, children under 10 years of age will be given admissions in Kendriya Vidyalayas and private schools, whereas provision has been made for educating kids between 11 to 18 years of age in residential schools, including Sainik School and Navodaya Vidyalayas. Expenditure on uniform, textbooks and notebooks for beneficiary kids will be done through the PM CARES fund. Students going for higher education will also be assisted to get education loans and scholarships. All children beneficiaries will be enrolled under Ayushman Bharat scheme with a health insurance cover of 5 lakh rupees, the premium for which will be paid by the PM CARES fund. Anand Chaturvedi, AIR News, Delhi.
India's national COVID-19 recovery rate has further improved to 90.8%. Health Ministry said daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 16th consecutive day. Weekly positivity rate stands currently at 9.84%. Meanwhile, India has crossed a major landmark with more than 21 crore cumulative COVID vaccine doses have been administered so far in the country. The ministry said that more than 28,09,000 beneficiaries were inoculated with COVID-19 vaccine doses till 7 p.m. on Saturday. Vaccine is a crucial tool in the fight against the dreaded coronavirus disease. The liberalized and accelerated phase 3 strategy of COVID-19 vaccination drive has already begun in the country. Despite the government's efforts to vaccinate all the beneficiaries in the shortest time, misinformation is being spread about vaccination. A false allegation has been spread that the centre is not giving enough vaccines to the states. The government of India has termed this claim obnoxious, saying that the government is continuously providing vaccines to the states. More from our correspondent.
The government has said that the centre is allocating enough vaccines to the states in a transparent manner. States are also being informed in advance about the availability of vaccine doses. The central government has provided over 22 crore 77 lakh COVID vaccine doses to states and union territories so far. Of this, the total consumption of doses is over 20 crore 80 lakh. More than 1 crore 82 lakh COVID vaccine doses are still available with the states and union territories. Apart from this, states are also getting 25% of vaccine doses and private hospitals are getting 25% doses through other channels. The Union Health Ministry has assured that 4,86,000 vaccine doses will be provided to states and union territories within the next 3 days. The central government is also facilitating direct procurement of vaccine by the states and union territories. The union government has stressed that vaccine availability is going to increase in the near future. It is estimated that over 200 crore doses of vaccine will be produced by the end of December this year. Bhupendra Singh, AIR News, Delhi.
Now let's take a look at the coronavirus updates from around the world. Japan has extended COVID-19 state of emergency in Tokyo and 9 other regions for 3 more weeks. Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga said that although infections were falling, they remained high and that some hospitals were still under strain. Restrictions will be in place until 19th June, 5 weeks before the postponed Tokyo 2020 Olympics are due to start. The European Commission on Friday authorized Pfizer-BioNTech's COVID-19 vaccine for use in children aged 12 and above. The decision came after European Medicines Agency EMA backed the use of the vaccine in 12 to 15-year-olds. The vaccine is already being used in the European Union for those aged 16 and above. The move has paved the way for a broader rollout in the bloc after similar clearances in the United States and Canada. Meanwhile, in Germany, the government is easing entry restrictions for several more EU countries due to declining numbers of COVID infections. And Afghanistan's health ministry announced on Saturday that it is closing several schools and universities across the country amid a surge in COVID cases. This is All India Radio giving you the world news.
3 steps to stay protected and stay safe from COVID-19. Wear face mask, 2 gaz ki duri to maintain social distancing, maintain hand and face hygiene.
In today's hotspot section, we bring you a discussion on the decision of the Indian government to invite applications for citizenship from people belonging to certain minority communities from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh who have taken shelter in India. The participants are Shekhar Iyer, political analyst, and Chetan Chauhan, journalist.
Notification has been issued under the Citizenship Act 1955 and not under the Citizenship Amendment Act which was passed in 2019. This gazette notification gives power to district authorities to verify the claims of minority communities. These are the people who have come to India on long-term visas, and this is through the naturalization process through which they will be granted citizenship after verification of the documents by district authorities and Home Ministry. Mr. Iyer, why do you think that this decision of the Home Ministry, which is coming during pandemic, is important?
As you mentioned very clearly, this is not under the Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019. Rather, this is under the Citizenship Act of 1955. And similar orders were issued in 2018 also. They have been done earlier. So therefore, this is not a new measure, but this is essentially to clear the backlog of cases, applicants who have been living here for more than 20 years. They have brought in more districts by empowering the district collectors to consider the cases after due verification by the Home Ministry as well as the state government, because some of these cases have been pending for the last 20 years. And this is not the fast-track provision which was incorporated in the Amendment Act. The rules have not yet been notified. And as the Home Minister had said a few days ago, that once the vaccination work is over and once the country overcomes the situation caused by the pandemic, then only will the issue of notification under the Citizenship Amendment Act will be taken up. So therefore, this is a very routine measure, but the point we have to note here is that this has been an ongoing exercise. More district authorities now can take up these cases. And essentially, if you look at the cases where they have granted, these are those places where already there are settlements of these people who came from neighboring countries, and they came with what is called the provision of LTV, that is long-term visa. They came with some documents, and they had also sought stay on the ground of religious persecution. So mostly these are Hindus and Sikhs and some Christian communities who came from Afghanistan, Pakistan and Bangladesh. So therefore, this is an exercise which is intended to see that more people are covered. But essentially, this time they have brought in some more districts, like in Gujarat, they have brought Morbi, Rajkot, Pathan and Vadodara. And similarly, in Chhattisgarh, you have got district of Durg and Balado Bazar. And in Rajasthan, they have brought in 4 districts under this provision where the district collectors are empowered to take up cases. And they include Jalore, Udaipur, Pali, Barmer and Shiroi. And in Haryana, they have brought in Faridabad. And similarly in Punjab, they have included Jalandhar. Now, as we all know, under the Citizenship Act, it is the centre which grants citizenship. But very often, the Home Ministry authorizes some district collectors, rather delegates power to them to take up those cases which are long pending. We have already seen in 2015, the Home Ministry had allowed these people that if they had come before December 2014 and they had come under the ground of religious persecution, then they could even take up employment in private sector, that is in non-official sector, and they could even purchase property and can also apply for driving license. So essentially, it is to lessen the difficulties of these people who have been here for a long time. This is essentially an exercise. Now, what is the difference between the Citizenship Act 1950? But these are cases where people have stayed for more than 20 years. and the requirement was that they will have to be continuous stay for 11 years. But under the Amendment Act, they would have required to stay in 6 years, but that is not under consideration now because they will have to wait for some time.
Shekhar, I think one of the significant aspects of this decision is Rajasthan High Court order issued few days ago, which asked the central government to consider this application of the past migrants, mostly Hindus living in Barmer and other districts of Rajasthan, also in other parts of the country, who said that they cannot get vaccinated for COVID because they don't have Aadhaar. Because Aadhaar is the document needed. So once the citizenship is granted, they would be able to get Aadhaar and other documents which are important to get different government benefits. And as you said, many of these families have been living in India for the last 15 years, 20 years on long-term visa. And because of COVID, they have faced a problem because for renewal of the visa, they have to go back to Pakistan or the country from where they have come, Bangladesh or Afghanistan. But they have not been able to go because of the COVID restrictions. So I think this is a decision by the Central Home Ministry to ease the pressure on these families and to make their life much more easier, and that's why the special permission has been given. Mr. Iyer, the bigger question which arises is this a precursor for the new Citizenship Amendment Act rules which will enforce the 2019 amendment to the Citizenship Amendment Act? They are living for 6 years in India. The minorities from these countries, they can get citizenship.
Definitely, the central government is committed to implementing the new act. Only the question was the framing of the rules which have got delayed. And the Government of India has been seeking permission from the Parliamentary Committee for Subordinate Legislation because they have to go to them for seeking extension. One of the major reasons was because the country has been gripped by pandemic. We saw the first wave in 20 and now we are passing through the second wave, and the entire energy of the Government of India and the state governments is fully concentrated on that. You did make a very, very important point about the Rajasthan High Court asking the authorities to consider the case of these people because otherwise they would not be covered under the vaccination drive if they did not show valid papers because they need to have Aadhaar because Aadhaar is the basis for which your vaccination application is granting a time and allotting slots. So therefore, that's a very, very important thing. And definitely, we saw during the West Bengal elections also, this Citizenship Amendment Act was a subject of election, I would say election debate, where the Home Minister said they are committed because in Bengal also there are thousands of cases where particularly belonging to the Matua community who had come from Bangladesh, but many of them could not get documents to apply for citizenship under the Indian laws. So that problem is there because the problem exists in the states like West Bengal. Of course, in Assam, different issue where the government of Assam, the new government has also said that they would like to look into that NRC draft which had created, that is the National Register of Citizens, because in Assam the case is completely different. There the issue has been the influx of foreigners over a period of time. In fact, the first National Register of Citizens was there in 1955. Subsequent to that, when there was a draft published a couple of years ago, there was a lot of complaints that this draft had left out many genuine Indian citizens. On the other hand, there was reasons to suspect that some of the foreigners had managed to get some documents somehow and had made entry into NRC. Therefore, the new government there under Chief Minister Hemant Biswa Sarma has assured that they will go into this and sort it out. So Assam is a different case, but in other parts, despite misgivings and political agitation that were launched without understanding the letter and spirit of the Citizenship Amendment Act, we did see a lot of sit-ins and agitation, thinking that this is somehow denying citizenship to a particular community, which was rather unfortunate understanding of the law, because this is nothing to do with anybody who are proud citizens of this country. This is more to do with people who have come from the neighboring countries, particularly Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. We know what is the situation in these countries where religious persecution is a very harsh fact of life, and many people have run away from their homes on this account. And as we discussed earlier, in states like Rajasthan, particularly all those places which are very close to the border, many people are staying there without any kind of state support. The simple fact, they are overstayed their visas or their old passports have been lost or they are not validated enough. So this particular order will take care of that, and we need to remind our listeners also that similar orders were reiterated in 2016 and 2018 also, and they are not related to this Citizenship Amendment Act.
Shekhar, Citizenship Amendment Act of 2019 has been a highly debated issue in the recently concluded elections in Assam and West Bengal, where in Assam it was said BJP was in some sort of predicament because there were some sections which were opposing the Amendment Act, wherein Bengal, the Home Minister clearly said that once the BJP government comes to power, they will recommend that the CAA should be implemented in Bengal, though the TMC won the elections. But it has a larger connotation. But as you said, that a large number of people, the persecuted minorities from these countries, have been living in India, and they have also been coming in through different routes in the recent years also, and they are facing a lot of hardship. But more importantly, most of these people who have come from Pakistan, Afghanistan or Bangladesh are poor or extremely poor people with very little livelihood support they have, or even sources of income. So with this notification, I think many who are living in Punjab, in Ludhiana, in Rajasthan, lesser numbers maybe in Chhattisgarh and Faridabad, they will get a lot of relief, and they would be able to get a citizenship if they have all the right documents in the next 3 to 6 months, because that is the time the process takes. But Shekhar, why the citizenship has been such a contentious issue in India? You spoke about the agitation by different groups all over the country against the CAA Amendment Act. Why it has been such a contentious issue in the country?
As I said earlier, it is largely because misunderstanding and misconception, and also I do see some role of work of some vested groups to unnecessarily spread confusion, because under the Citizenship Act of 1955, there is already a provision where anybody can apply for citizenship of India. Now, the only question is, the grounds have been laid out that who are people who can get citizenship. Now, under that, the provision was, the only issue is that it can be granted either by naturalization or on special grounds. Now, the provisions for grant of citizenship on these special condition was, they should have come here on a long-term visa and must have stayed here for at least 11 years. And that required some kind of non-variable stay, means they should have stayed in a particular place. Now, many of these people have come, and of late there has been more influx have come. You see, the whole problem is not the old people who came, who are now being taken care of by orders that have been issued. Now, this is about the new wave of people who have come. Let's say people have come in 2014, because the CIA proposed cutoff of 2014. Now, December 2014 is the cutoff date, means till 2025, they have to be here. They will be without any documents or any facility. They cannot get anything. So therefore, this was to take special case of religious persecution. Now, obviously, people who are fleeing from these neighboring countries on grounds of religious persecution, they are those who belong to a particular community. So therefore, either they are Hindus or they are Sikhs or they are Christians or Parsis, these communities have been targeted in the neighboring countries. Because the whole issue was why Muslims people have been left out. No, this is not about Muslims of this country who are proud, full-fledged citizens of this country. I mean, this is nothing to do with them. But somehow there was a political campaign which made out that this particular law is discriminating towards them, which is not. Because this is about people who are coming from there. Now, any case, a person belonging to, let's say, Muslim community from Pakistan wants to apply for citizenship, I mean, they can always do it. But only thing is, they are not the case that has to be fast tracked under religious persecution, because in Pakistan, Muslim community members are not facing persecution. So it was only this. But then, whether you due to communication gap or misunderstanding, definitely it was a political campaign. People were misled to believe that those who are here for generations, they are going to be disenfranchised or they are going to be removed, which was very unfortunate, because once a campaign builds up on falsehoods and false arguments and false presumption, then you will leave a situation where you have people, everybody agitated, because this is not intended regarding them, because they already are full-fledged citizens. They have passport, visa, Aadhaar. I mean, they are living here for centuries. So that is not issue about them. This is about people who have come. Now, already who came 20 years ago, their papers are being processed. Now, the concern was, how do we handle the new wave of people who have come? And they have come essentially because of religious persecution. In order that their suffering may be reduced, so this amendment was thought of, that was reduced. We mentioned about Assam. Assam case is a problem there. They have had this problem of foreigners, influx of foreigners coming since India was partitioned from 1947 onwards. That's why in the 1955 they had a National Register of Citizens. Then subsequently also, when the foreign agitation started, we all know it started in the 80s. So there was an Assam Accord between the Rajiv Gandhi government and the agitating students' unions of Assam. I mean, that accord provided for special tribunals to detect and deport illegal migrants. Now, that exercise had some issues. Consequently, a situation came where there was a demand that the cases were filed in Supreme Court, and Supreme Court mandated that you should have a fresh National Register of Citizens. Now, that is a completely different thing, which is nothing to do with this. But people of Assam are naturally worried that under the CIA, the benefit should not go to people who have already entered the country and whose presence there has created a problem because of this continuous influx of foreigners. Now, there the issue is not persecution on religious grounds. So this is the kind of situation where we need to have a clarity to understand what is it about CIA and what are the present orders.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the World News. Today is the International Day of UN Peacekeepers. This day is observed on 29th of May every year to pay tribute to peacekeepers' contribution and to honor over 4,000 peacekeepers who lost their lives serving under the UN flag since 1948. The theme this year is the road to a lasting peace, leveraging the power of youth for peace and security. Around 90,000 men and women work in peacekeeping missions worldwide to protect civilians, help achieve and maintain peace, and defend human rights. The peacekeeping force was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1988. Mali's Constitutional Court on Friday declared Assimi Goïta, the colonel who led a military coup this week while serving as vice president, to be the new interim president. Goïta became interim vice president after leading the coup last August that overthrew President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta. He ordered the arrest of President Ban Ando and Prime Minister Mokhtar Ouane. Both resigned on Wednesday while still in detention. They were later released.
Sri Lanka's top environment body has warned and asked people to be vigilant in case of inclement weather. There could be slight acid rains due to the emission of nitrogen dioxide from the Singapore-flagged cargo ship which caught fire near the Colombo beach last week. International Everest Day 2021 is being celebrated today. This day is observed in the memory of the first summit of Mount Everest by New Zealand's Sir Edmund Hillary and Nepal's Tenzing Norgay Sherpa that took place on 29th of May 1953. Moving on to sports, six-time world champion MC Mary Kom will face Kazakhstan's Nazim Kayzebay in the summit clash of Asian Boxing Championships in Dubai on Sunday. She stormed into the final of the women's 51 kg category with a 4-1 win against Mongolia's Latsekhan Alsansetseg. There are three more Indian women boxers in contention for gold medal. They include Lalbut Sahi in 64 kg, Pooja Rani in 75 kg and Anupama in plus 81 kg categories. Indian male boxers Amit Pangal, Shiva Thapa and Sanjeet have also reached the finals of Asian Boxing Championship with resounding victories in the last four stages. Pangal will now take on reigning Olympic and world champion Shakobidin Zoirov of Uzbekistan in the final on Monday. In football, the stage is set for an All-English Champions League final clash at Porto in a short while from now.
Now let's take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. Washington Post reports that Vietnam's health ministry has said that the new variant detected in Vietnam is a mix of coronavirus strains first detected in the United Kingdom and India. New York Times writes that the Biden administration will reimpose economic sanctions on certain state-owned companies in Belarus after Belarus forced down a European passenger jet last weekend. The Sydney Morning Herald reported that 4-meter waves batter Sydney's coast with high tide fears tonight. Khaleej Time reports that Sri Lankan authorities are concerned that microplastic pollution could cause years of ecological damage to island country. And a quick look at the headlines once again. India and the United States vow to support each other amid COVID crisis. Prime Minister Narendra Modi announces PM Cares children's schemes creates corpus of 10 lakh rupees and free education for children who lost their parents due to COVID-19. Japan extends COVID-19 state of emergency in Tokyo and 9 other regions for 3 more weeks. International Day of United Nations Peacekeepers being observed today, and 7 Indian boxers gear up for a big haul of gold medals at the Asian Boxing Championships in Dubai. India is celebrating the 155th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi. Before we end, let's listen to his favorite bhajan, Vaishnav Jan, by artists from Norway. And With that, we end this bulletin. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow with the next edition of World News.